Emotional health is part of total health. There aren't good emotions and bad emotions, only healthy and unhealthy expressions of them. Emotional health is a component of total health. A. There's a time and place for every emotion. King Solomon was proclaimed a wise man, some say the wisest ever. He's noted for saying things like,
"There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance."
He suggests there are seasons in which we are so joyful that we laugh or even dance. Then there are moments when we weep and we mourn. Now, rather than telling us that some of these emotions are good and others are bad, he acknowledges that we should express them in the right time and in the right place. Different situations call for each of them. Sometimes celebration is the right response. At other times, sadness and sorrow are appropriate. The Bible, that's where we find Solomon's quote in the Old Testament. It doesn't tell us not to express the, quote, bad emotions, or that is the ones we often label as bad. Scripture affirms that we do feel grief. Paul writes in 1 Thessalonians 4:13, we grieve, but not like those who don't have hope. Notice he says we feel it and we express it. We just do it differently than people without long-term hope, those who can't yet see the bigger picture. In another passage, Paul exhorts us, be angry, yet do not sin. It's in Ephesians 4:26. Presumably then, be angry. Anger isn't inherently wrong. In yet another of his writings, Paul says the physical conditions that he faced were so harsh that, quote, we despaired of life itself. That's 2 Corinthians 1:8. He admits it would have been easier in that moment to just give up and die. Now, let's apply what we just learned, the things we just read, to situations you may actually encounter or have actually encountered. When you lose a team member in the line of duty or to suicide, grief is one of the appropriate responses. When a perpetrator puts innocent civilians in harm's way, anger is an appropriate response. When you're called to put your life on the line yet again after an already long, grueling shift that comes atop weeks of strain, desperation is appropriate. It might be normal and common. And though we affirm we should sometimes feel those things, we don't want to be, here's the key, we don't want to be controlled by those feelings. Heroes, whether they're warriors, firefighters, law enforcement officers, peacekeepers, or paramedics, or others, sometimes hinder themselves from sharing their emotions. For sure, you must endure a situation until it's over before you can express the feelings connected to it. It would be hard to press pause while fighting a fire, or triaging a high-speed collision, or while reloading during a gunfight, and pause to release the emotions and then step right back into action. But at some point after, the appropriate emotions, which vary from person to person and situation to situation, because we all receive these experiences differently, they must find full expression in a healthy way. Without a proper outlet, emotional hurts and trauma, whether it's of the big T or the little t variety, those hurts will come out and express themselves and unload in unhealthy, sometimes inappropriate, and often hurtful to you and other people types of ways. B, what kind of health do we value? Emotional health is an important component of total health. So to walk in total health, we need to grapple with the world of our emotions. Let's revisit the overweight example from chapter 1. If someone, even a hero, mentioned they hired a physical trainer to lose some weight and gain some muscle, we would commend them. We might even relate, adding something like, probably wouldn't hurt if I dropped a few pounds and got a little stronger myself. We don't shun or shame them. We identify with them and celebrate their commitment. Why? Well, it's because we all value physical health. We respond the same way when someone enrolls in some form of therapy to correct a physical injury. Now, notice the word therapy in that sentence. When someone enrolls in a form of therapy for a physical injury, we're obviously not afraid of the concept of therapy. We use the word frequently as it pertains to rehabilitating bodily injuries. Or if someone seeks help to take control of their finances, even if it's intellectual, we commend people who take extra classes, acquire additional professional certifications, or go back to school to acquire new knowledge and shore up any perceived deficiencies in order to move from where they are to where they aspire to be in their career or some other pursuit. Even people who identify as non-spiritually minded often feel this way about someone seeking answers to life's deeper questions. We applaud people who seek to better themselves by meeting with their pastors, their spiritual leaders, mentors, or life coaches. Here's the strange part. We affirm people who seek just about any form of personal help unless it's emotional or mental. Now think about the issue practically. When's the last time you took someone seriously who said something like, "Hey, I'm taking charge of my emotional health. I'm going to meet with a therapist"? Or what if someone said they regularly attend therapy? Would your first response be, "Wow, courageous, do the tough work of the soul"? Or would your response be, wonder what's wrong with that person?
You can always find a valid reason not to pursue emotional health, to ignore the check engine lights of the soul. Here are a few. People might think you're crazy. You were taught to push through and accomplish the mission. No one else talked about it. Some people have been fired for their transparency. That said, the reasons to pursue emotional health are greater than any of the reasons people give to not pursue it.
You've heard this phrase, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. It doesn't matter how great the capacity of one link in the chain is if another flounders with minimal pressure. Well, you and I function the same way. We are intellectual, we are spiritual, we are physical, we are social, and we are emotional beings. So many different facets, links in us. Our opportunities for success in life increase as we thrive in each of these areas. C, the soul is often the weakest link. John, one of Jesus's disciples, wrote, "I pray you find yourself in good health and prosper in all things, just as your soul prospers." 3 John 2. The soul is the area of our mind and our emotions. We'll discuss the soul more later. Notice that John highlighted the soul as a unique area, though. The soul is a different link in the chain of us than the physical body.
Body, soul, spirit. We have multiple parts to us, each affecting all the other parts. We have a body, our physical person, a soul, our mind, our thoughts, and our emotions. This is our personality. A spirit, our conscious, right and wrong, core identity, has a spiritual and even a religious dimension. Any of these facets of us can be injured. When they hurt, you must address the type of wound that you have. For example, the body can have a physical injury, the soul could have PTSD or emotional wounds, and the spirit could suffer from moral injury or guilt and shame. Again, each part impacts the others. To reach peak performance in life, we need to train each one of them.
Now, as a hero, we want you to be strong physically. My friend TJ, a fireman in South Alabama, invests a lot of time lifting weights and doing cardio. He looks like the competitors in a CrossFit competition. If my house engulfs in flames or my car flounders upside down in a ditch, I want a guy like him running towards my family, helping assist them. I prefer him to the typical dad bod guy. Just being honest. And you probably do too. We want our heroes to be physically strong. You see, if our bodies aren't healthy, especially you, if you're a hero, you won't be able to perform the activities heroes are required to do, much less execute day-to-day duties at the Little League park with your kids, doing chores around the house. It's just easier if you're physically strong. We also want you to be strong mentally and emotionally as well. If our minds are occupied with worries and fears, it can debilitate us from ever moving forward. And if our emotions aren't whole, well, they can shut the other areas of us down as well. Think for a moment then what might happen if we took our emotional health seriously. How much stronger overall would we be if we evaluated our emotional capacity as seriously as we review and seek to grow our financial capacity? Or if we paused and took the necessary time to deal with the emotional traumas in the same way we do for physical injuries? Or if we encouraged emotional exploration and growth like we foster intellectual endeavors? Or if we explored what's really happening inside of us before we tried to offload in unhealthy ways to other people, like we did the inside internal work first. Or if we treated emotional hurts with the same care as the spiritual or big questions of life. Somewhere along the way, we may have developed the idea that exploring emotions and dealing with emotional wounds proves we are weak. Now, maybe it's because we're told to push through things in the line of duty. Or maybe, let's just be candid, some people actually do look down on those who explore emotional hurts. Or it could be we've decided that some emotions are good and others are bad, as we discussed moments ago. The truth, though, is that total health not only involves thinking right, but also feeling right. That is, being able to manage our feelings and the expressions of them. Inappropriate expressions will come out if not addressed or managed. Now, remember, big note, it's not that the emotions are inappropriate. It's not that it's wrong to have the feeling. However, often the responses are inappropriate. So when we get to chapter 4, we will dialogue about how to manage that when you feel something that you really can't express and you need to do it in a healthy way. Emotions are part of who we are. As we consider why we act the way we do, we must keep in mind that, again, there aren't good emotions, there aren't bad emotions, only healthy and unhealthy expressions of them. So, think for a moment. Why don't people stop and deal with the emotional issues? Why don't we talk about them more? A few thoughts might be, we're told to bury our feelings and push on. There's often a stigma attached to bad, quote, bad emotions. Emotional exploration isn't encouraged in the same way other things are, like physical health, intellectual endeavors, financial responsibility. And there could be a real cost associated with emotional honesty. Some careers aren't available to people who admit having PTSD or experiencing emotional trauma. We can't deal with emotions while on mission or in the line of duty because we could get someone, including ourselves, hurt or injured. And we're accustomed, many of us, to carrying the pain. If you've gotten used to carrying those internal burdens, know that you are not alone. And there is a way to unload them in healthy ways. But as we'll see throughout this resource, you must be intentional about it. D, trauma changes people. You might have changed, and it's normal if you did. Dr. Andrew Wiest, a professor of American War History at the University of Southern Mississippi, has written 11 books about American War and counting. He reminds us that the things seen in the line of duty don't just go away. Rather, we must process them in healthy ways in order to move forward. Now, right here, I'm going to play the quote from the book in his own words because I've quoted him from one of Crosswind's documentaries, Invisible Scars, about how PTSD affects soldiers, warriors when they're deployed.
Sometimes I ask my students to maybe think of something they've been through that was difficult, whether it was the loss of a loved one or perhaps a car wreck or something like that, and to take what trauma they've experienced in a life, a little bit of trauma. And one of my veteran friends told me this, and I think it's a very good way to put it. He said, imagine that trauma, but imagine that trauma happening day after day for 365 days, and then you have what a veteran's been through.
Now notice, this sounds a lot like the compounding trauma we discussed in Chapter 1. The problem, Wiest also points out, is that many heroes don't cope in healthy ways. Not able to fully understand himself what is going on, much less explain it to his family, a hero may begin to self-medicate with alcohol and or drugs, causing things to spiral farther out of control. He cannot express what is really happening, especially then, because now you've got layer upon layer upon layer, so the hero and the family, as well as the close friends, are sometimes left desperately trying to understand why he or she is no longer the same person they once were. Now, Bruce Chaplin, a chaplain and pastoral psychologist, he observes this trend. He's in the same documentary. I'm going to play him here in his words. Check this story.
I had a mother one time, and her 19-year-old son was in the Army National Guard. He'd been overseas. He came home. He lived with them before and he still had his home. And when he came home, it was just assumed he's going to move back in, get a job, go to school, whatever. He comes home, and within a few months, the mother came to me and she said, I don't understand. He's not my son. I said, what do you mean? She said, he's not the son that I sent off on deployment a year ago. She said, he's different. He's moody. He's hypervigilant. He's got a lot of anxiety. He can't find a job. If he finds a job, he can't hold the job. And he's hanging out more. He's drinking. He's not behaving like my son. And the problem is, he isn't your son in the psychological. Biologically, he's your son. But he's changed radically, and so have you. And you're just expecting to take home what you sent away. It doesn't happen.
Now notice what he said. Serving changes people. You cannot endure the things heroes endure and not be changed. Like we said earlier, you take the best of you to the worst of situations and you trade. You leave your best, you pick up the worst, making the circumstances better for everyone else. You're the professional fixer, the one that we depend upon. And whereas we often think that the changes, such as the symptoms of PTSD, prove that people are unhealthy, the change actually proves that you are normal, that you are fully human. Again, it would be abnormal to endure service and not be affected by it, because the circumstances you endure are not only abrupt, life-altering events for the people you serve, they also impact you. Sure, there are often issues to sort and wounds, even invisible ones, that need to be healed. But again, rather than showing that something is wrong with the hero, this reveals that there is something fundamentally whole and right. Now, this leads to a fundamental reality about mental and emotional health. You must choose to walk in wholeness in this area. Let me say it again. You must choose to walk in wholeness in this area. In the same way we proactively decide to walk in physical health, we must also intentionally walk in soul health. And that often requires a conscious effort. It seems odd at first glance how often Jesus asked with clear physical ailments if they actually wanted to be well. In Mark 10, 51 through 52, he asked the blind man who approached him. The blind man is walking to Jesus, and he actually said,
"What do you want me to do for you?"
Was it not obvious? Maybe it was, yet it was still that man's decision as to whether or not he wanted to own the issue and accept help. Mental health works much the same way.
You can't heal a hurt you refuse to acknowledge.
Again, the mention of mental health often conjures different thoughts and feelings among different people. We all want to be healthy and whole, but that desire often stands in contrast to what we feel we'll experience if we seek the help. Some estimates suggest that 25 to 30% of combat veterans experience PTSD. The numbers are similar for first responders. Many, if not most, of these injuries go untreated. Now, the reasons are varied, but most often come down to the stigmas and stereotypes associated with emotional health in general and PTSD in particular, as well as the impression many hold that they can fight their way through the internal struggles on their own. Some believe to acknowledge their invisible wounds and seek help indicates weakness. If any of this resonates with your experience, know that you're not alone. And yes, some might label you in any of the ways referenced above. That's a valid concern. However, the reasons for seeking help are far greater than any of the potential pushback you might receive. Rather than showing weakness or personal instability, it's a mark of self-awareness and personal wholeness to seek help, especially since we agree that you can't endure the events heroes experience and not be affected by those. E, your mission. It's not to get over it and not a return to what was, but to get through it and move to the best possible outcome. Your wounds should never be a part of your identity, some people say. If they are, it shows you haven't fully healed yet. Or you'll get over it. Realistically, do you get over some of the things that you've seen? Should you get over the abrupt death of someone lost in the line of duty? Should you get over the loss of a colleague who, seeing no alternative, took his own life? Should you get over the injustices you've seen? Should you get over the broken trust, the distant relationships, and the other costs of serving. In reality, getting over a past event may not be the best goal. You may not get over it, but you can get through it. And that's not just a linguistic difference where we're playing mental gymnastics. You don't just get over, but you do move through. And on the other side of moving through, you help others find their way through too. Sometimes this means your scars remain. The scars no longer control the story, but they are part of it, perhaps even a significant part. Let me explain. When they killed Jesus, they battered him mercilessly. Isaiah prophesied the soldiers would beat him so horrifically that you wouldn't be able to recognize who he was or that he was even a human. See Isaiah 53. They shredded his back. They forced a crown of thick thorns into, not just onto, but into his skull, and they shoved a spear through his abdomen to puncture his heart. After he arose from the dead, he bore almost none of those scars. Almost. Clearly, when the disciples questioned as to whether or not it was him, he showed them certain scars remained. Specifically, where the nails punctured him and the wound on his side. See John 20:20. Those particular scars were his proof to a doubting Thomas that he was indeed himself. Jesus encouraged Thomas, look, see, the scars.
Wound versus scar. A wound is a visible sign of an injury. A scar is a wound that has healed or is in the process of healing, leaving evidence that an injury occurred at some point in the past. Throughout this resource, we talk about invisible wounds, injuries that happen to the soul and the spirit, as well as physical wounds. Avoiding physical wounds and neglecting to address them may allow them to fester and get infected. Avoiding soul and spirit wounds increases reptile responses over time and reinforces thinking errors. This can lead to prolonged, uncomfortable emotions and even poor behavioral choices. Though we don't want to lead from our wounds and live out our hurts, scars tell a different story. Scars provide evidence we've taken action to address the wound. Scars can remind us and others of how far we've come. They prove that healing is possible.
Clearly, some scars remain and others don't. Or to say it another way, you may get over some things automatically, but for other hurts, the best focus may be to just move through them in a healthy way. Some traces of the past pain may linger. Perhaps part of the distinction is that whole people, those who've claimed their freedom and learned to walk with grace and health, don't lead with the scars. Whole people don't walk around with open wounds oozing on people around them or oversharing, vilifying, and playing the victim on social media. Nor do they deny those hurts exist either. See, scars verify that a hurt occurred and that significant healing is underway or has already happened. Rather than showing you open sores on their soul, healed heroes direct you to scars, proof that they've been through something, perhaps similar to what others are doing, as a hope for the others that they can endure and thrive too. They share the scars. Look, see the scars. To encourage others to put one foot forward and begin their freedom march. That is, the sharing works best when it's no longer about the one who is now free. It's about those who remain in the struggle. Maybe then your scars have a story to tell. Your scars may be the very hope someone else currently struggling needs to see that they too can come out on the other side.